Hello everyone, this is Andrew from Adamo Gaming, and today I'm going to be reviewing Need for Speed Hot Pursuit Remastered, a game that came out last year in November 2020. It's supposed to be an improvement from its 2010 counterpart from things like graphical enhancements, resolution increases for consoles, and some updates to the user interface. I'll be going through the campaign, multiplayer, as well as some issues to determine if this game was the remaster we needed. But before that, let's jump into a comparison with the original and remastered to see what changes have been made. Now I have both the original and remaster on different platforms, that's PC and PS4. They'll be compared on screen now, but I think the key graphical change is centered around the lighting. The wheel spin shines brighter, car models and their number plates appear more visible and crisp, especially with cop cars and their decals. The default camera positions have been adjusted slightly, although for certain vehicles, tiny details do look a bit faded on the remaster, and I noticed that the Pagani Zonda received the sound change to its engine. Now there are a lot of environmental improvements. The remaster is definitely the better looking game, however there are some small details which appear slightly superior on the original, from things like tarmac reflections and draw distance. It just seems like they've selectively upgraded details and either left the rest as they are or downgraded them. There is now a garage option in the main menu, and the Racer garage itself has received a makeover to give it a showcase feel. I personally preferred the old garage, even though it was so dark in there. It looked like you were staring into the abyss most of the time.
What kind of place is this?
If you do prefer visuals over performance, an up-to-date PC or current gen console is recommended, as they support 4K and a stable 60 frames per second, whereas old gen consoles still only give you 30 FPS at 1080p. Now the remaster has included all of the DLC packages that came with the original game. I believe it was a console exclusive, so if you are coming from PC, you get to play an extra 6 hours of new content, as well as trying out more than 30 new cars, some of which include the Gumper Apollo, the Lamborghini Diablo Super Veloce, and a personal favourite of mine, the Lamborghini Sesto Elemento. However, certain cars were removed due to licensing issues, such as the Mercedes Sterling Moss, and a few others. Nonetheless, the DLC makes up for that in my opinion, and you can get up to 30 hours of playtime if you are a completionist. And just to note, you do need at least one friend to get the Platinum Trophy. But now that's out of the way, let's jump into the main review of the career mode. First off, the campaign isn't necessarily story driven, although all the events you take part in have a little description to improvise a story. You're basically this faceless character. I say faceless character, it's actually some dude wearing sunglasses. We're all dudes wearing sunglasses here. Who competes in a mixture of events around Seacrest County, as a racer or a cop. Racers play a criminal role, engaging in street races, one-on-one duels, speed walls which are essentially time trials, and notably the most popular event, the Hot Pursuit mode, where you have to compete against racers and avoid being busted by the SCPD. Cops on the other hand play a role to protect and serve, by engaging in rapid response calls where you respond to a dispatch, previews where you're given access to endgame vehicles, interceptors where you must bust a single racer, and hot pursuits as well, where you must shut down an 8-car race by yourself. You aren't completely alone in these events however, as you are equipped with 4 weapons which differ slightly for racers and cops. Racers get EMPs which lock onto vehicles to disrupt and damage them, spike strips which are dropped behind you to burst the tyres of other cars, jammers disable cops' operating systems, and lastly a turbo which gives the racer a rapid increase in speed and acceleration for a short time. Cops also receive EMPs and spike strips, but 2 of their unique weapons are roadblocks, which set up a blockade of cars for oncoming racers, and a helicopter, which flies ahead to drop spike strips. In my experience, cop events seem slightly more difficult due to the time penalties for hitting traffic in certain events and the amounting pressure from having to bust all 8 racers in the hot pursuit. I think the weapons influence your playstyle, as racers operate on the defensive, trying to survive in hot pursuits and keep their distance from the SCPD, whereas cops are offensive, trying to damage and bust as many racers as possible. In terms of the progression system, I always found myself working towards the next weapon upgrade or vehicle. as weapons become more effective during endgame activities such as deploying more spike strips or EMPs increasing in range, as well as the 5 series of cars that improve on performance as you go up the tiers. It just encourages you to try and finish first or get the best score in pursuits because the rewards are very much worth it in the long run. During my time playing, I've noticed cop cars tend to have better acceleration times and can hold their top speeds for longer. However, their nitros becomes less potent and effective when compared to racers. It gives you a balance between both variants, so neither vehicle is seen as superior in that aspect. Nitros is earned through dangerous driving, and is more effective for racers through things like drifting, near misses, taking shortcuts, driving towards oncoming traffic, and slipstreaming. So the more dangerous you drive, the faster you can go. Cops on the other hand build up nitros in a similar fashion, but is more dedicated to building up automatically. You have to be careful though, as crashing in this game can set you back quite a bit. The animation is a throwback to the Burnout series, and it's just as funny and exaggerated as ever. There are no penalties either, so even if you fail a mission or get busted, nothing happens to your bounty or vehicles. You just have to start the event again. I really like this aspect as you didn't have to worry about losing anything that could affect your progression, and really gave the game a laid-back approach. Unlike games like Need for Speed Heat, where it's a little more stressful in pursuits as you can lose a lot of money for being caught. One thing I also liked is how evenly distributed the preview modes were throughout the career mode. You weren't always using slower vehicles in the early game, they kinda gave you access to high-end vehicles from time to time, so you get a feel for how fast the cars will be in the end game, which can make the career experience a little less daunting. When you finish the main career mode, the game doesn't die out so easily. There are still some activities you can do. You probably won't have unlocked all the cars yet, as some of the endgame vehicles cost a lot of bounty, so you may want to replay some events to unlock everything. You can also challenge your friends' times on different events and share them to your wall. You can mess around with the photo mode to get some cool shots of your car or the environment. And can I just say I really love the drifting in this game. There's something satisfying about it as it actually shows your car turning right to go left and vice versa. It's like a throwback to the Cars movies. Goated film, but anyway. You can also look into the personal history of any unlocked car in the garage, which is accompanied by a euphonious woman. We'll read it out for you.
Created to celebrate 15 years of outstanding performance, agira, the Swedish verb to act, is used to symbolize everything that Koenigsegg does best.
If you're creative, you can use the wrap editor to give your favorite cars a unique look. Customization really lacked for this game, so developers implemented this in their latest patch. It's still lacking though when compared to games like Need for Speed Heat, where you could customize most details on your car. Bumpers, spoilers, headlights, rims, tires, number plates, even your own character. Which makes this remaster's customization look a bit lackluster. Listen, I'm not that creative, and this is one of my first designs. It speaks for itself really. I mean, what do you think, Filthy Frank? You can't share designs either, so you kind of have to fend for yourself on this one, but there are some pre-made designs you can use to spice up your look. Lastly, there's the free drive option, which lets you spawn any vehicle around Seacrest County so you can explore the area. Maybe you'd like to travel through Big Timber Forest, the Carson Ridge Reservoir, the Mission Beach, or maybe you want to go to the highest point of the map in Eagle's Crest. You'll also notice some pretty cool atmospheric sound effects as well. There aren't any collectibles or stunt jumps unfortunately, but this free drive option gives you the chance to explore your favourite vehicle's strengths and weaknesses. The game doesn't tell you much about the performance of your vehicle, so you're left figuring that out for yourself. I know I said cop cars are generally faster, but that doesn't always appear to be the case. In certain situations, racers can be faster, some perform better through drifting, going off-road, or some even have more effective nitros tanks. There's just a lot more to the performance of certain cars, and I think the free drive option is one big sandbox to help you explore that. And it also prepares you for some friendly competition in multiplayer, which I'll explain now. There isn't really much to say about the multiplayer. Apart from being a straight up ramfest, you can expect to participate in the same events as the campaign, and you can play all these between 2 and 8 players. You can either search for any game or use the filters to select a specific series or event you'd like to do. However, with the DLC there are 2 new modes that have been added in, and that's Arms Race and Most Wanted. The Arms Race, simply put, is a race with up to 8 players, but weapons are enabled. Think of it as a free-for-all with cars, except in my experience it doesn't seem that much different from normal races, given that most players don't use any offensive weapons as much. The Most Wanted game mode, however, is much more entertaining. 4 cops and 4 racers go up against each other, and it's the racer's job to protect one player who is assigned as the most wanted, it must wreck all cop cars or help them escape. The cops on the other hand only have to bust or wreck the most wanted to win. This is where voice chat can come in handy, but it isn't necessary. If you're a solo player and a bit competitive, it can be a little stressful without a coordinated team. You are given the same unlocks as the career mode unfortunately, so multiplayer can get a bit bland once you've unlocked everything. I've just begun to see it as an arcade game. You just play, rinse, repeat until you get bored. Although I think the community sets up clan events from time to time which is better suited for more serious players. During launch, multiplayer was very popular, and still is 10 months later. I play around 6 PM to 11 PM British summertime, and because crossplay is enabled, you won't have trouble finding lobbies. But one thing I notice is that I've never been able to connect to any Xbox players. I'm not sure why that is, it could be a NAT issue or based on your current location, but just to note, you may run into the same players as the community is quite small. Inviting friends is pretty simple, a few clicks and they're in, but one cool aspect I found is that invites don't expire unless the lobby is removed. So if you're late joining for whatever reason, you'll be put in the lobby with a progress update of the current event, so you know when it's finishing, which is pretty useful. Even as a remaster, this game still has its issues, both in the career mode and multiplayer. In the career, I found extreme forms of rubber banding, which can work in your favour or be very annoying, and as you replay certain events, you'll begin to notice how scripted everything is. AI racers will crash into traffic at certain points of an event, and then traffic itself, which is arguably the most dangerous and disrespectful thing in the game, will deliberately swerve into your path in an attempt to crash you out. Multiplayer on the other hand is a bit wild. You don't have to worry about rubber banding, but in the most wanted game mode, players would actually spawn on top of each other, and it would often lead to a lot of damage, crashes, or players being busted. This was fixed in an earlier patch, but a much more annoying bug which still hasn't been rectified is the pop-up traffic. Occasionally, traffic would appear on your screen at random points in time, and usually when you least expect it, which causes you to crash. Now I think this is a syncing issue between players because oftentimes someone you are racing may see traffic on their screen, but it doesn't show up for you, which sucks when you're doing intense races. And also, ice skating traffic. When a player bumps into AI traffic, they slide across the road in some exaggerated fashion, and if you're on the receiving end, well, you know where I'm going with this. And to top it all off, yes, there are some cheaters, but it's very rare. You'll see people using infinite nitros or abusing weapon systems, and a weird one, where players would use vehicles from different series. For example, in one of the exotic races I did, I found a player using a Mazda RX-8, which actually belongs to the sports series, but I think they recoded it to make it faster, and yes, they did beat us. Nonetheless, it's pretty harmless, however, you can imagine certain players may do the opposite and abuse this, such as using hypercars against vehicles in a slower series. Lastly, there's a glitch that I wanted to check was still working 11 years later. Free roam with your friends isn't actually possible in this game, but with a bit of research I found that there is a way. In the race Sun Standard Supercars, if you turn around you are met with two large X's that block off the rest of the map. But if you were to start the race as normal, drive all the way to the 6.6 mile mark and turn back, the X's would disappear, giving you the opportunity to free roam. I could only get one other friend to do this with me, but you can imagine that it's possible with a full group of 8 players. Taking everything into account, was Need for Speed Hot Pursuit the remaster we needed? Honestly, no. I'll admit it was a nice surprise, multiplayer is back and some people get to experience the DLC for the first time, but I think this was the last game on people's minds and probably should have been released alongside a new Need for Speed game, or if anything, for free. And I say that because I don't think it took too long to remaster. The graphical changes aren't groundbreaking and it seems like they've left some bugs and glitches in that were still present 11 years ago, which makes it look like a copy and paste process. If it had the full customization capabilities of Need for Speed Heat, I definitely would have been more interested, but regardless, you're not missing much, but I definitely recommend picking this up on a sale if you are looking for some arcadey fun with friends. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. It's been Andrew from Adamo Gaming, I hope you enjoyed this video and thanks for watching.